Lots of the debate, even today, as we've just heard, is to do with the prospect of a no-deal Brexit now on the 29th of March. If no deal is forthcoming and if no deal is approved by Parliament. And of course, for some people, that's not something we should be too concerned about. For other people, it would be an exceptionally risky course of action. It would then be, of course, the terms of trade after that would be according to WTO rules, World Trade Organization rules. I'm very pleased to say I'm joined now by Pascal Lamy, the former European Commissioner for Trade, former Director General of the World Trade Organization. Mr. Lamy, very good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us on BBC News. First of all, just a general perspective from you on where we are in this Brexit process right now.
Well, we are in a mess, which was to be expected, given that getting the British egg out of the EU omelette was always to be a very tricky operation. So I'm not surprised that we are where we are. That is basically nowhere. There is no solution on the table. The British Parliament has rejected the deal which was on the table. On the other side, nobody wants a no deal. I think this would be extremely risky because it would be extremely costly. That's clear. And what's also clear is that there cannot be a border between Ulster and Ireland. Apart from that, everything is unclear. And my own sense, for what it's worth, and I'm not speaking for Europe nor for Brussels, my own sense is that the only way out for the moment is to do what we've been doing in Europe very often in cases of crisis, is stop the clock.
Well, let's consider about stopping the clock in a second, because I want to actually ask you about the prospect of a no-deal Brexit, because there are still parliamentarians here, as you know full well, who are saying, look, this is not the disaster that some people make it out to be, and precisely because of the rules of trade that could be offered by the WTO, this is something the UK could get used to pretty quickly. Now, what is your response to that?
Well, my response to that has always been the same. They are right that the WTO regime may not be the hell, but remember that Brexit is about exiting paradise in trade terms, which the internal market is. So you have different leagues. The first league is the internal market. Exiting the internal market means exiting first league. Then you can go to a second league, which is some sort of bilateral trade agreement with the European Union. Nothing like this for the moment. So no second league, which leaves you with third league. But of course, if you play football or soccer, better be in the first league than the second one, and better be in the second one than the third one. The WTO regime is third league. You will have to pay, and Europeans will have to pay for trade, with borders, with tariffs, with differences in regulations, which, whatever political position you have, whether it's good or not to exit, what cannot be discussed is the fact that it is costly. And that's the whole paradox of Brexit. I mean, the solution which everybody is looking for is how can we Brits, you Brits, exit as much as possible politically and as little as possible economically. Exiting politically is nice, good. Exiting economically is bad, costly. What the situation today tells us that this remains the equation, but there is no solution to this equation. And the reality is that if there is no solution to the equation, you go directly to the third league, which is where the border is the thickest, hence where you have the most friction for trade, which I think is bad for the United Kingdom, but also bad for Europe, of course.
You mentioned stopping the clock, Mr. Lamy. For how long? How long would the clock need to be stopped for in order to sort things out?
I'm not sure there should be a firm deadline. Of course, there is a problem that we have European elections where members of the European Parliament must be elected next June. And we probably would be in a bit of a strange situation if the United Kingdom was still in Europe, but without members in the European Parliament. So I would say June elections, June European Parliament elections are probably the next one. But frankly speaking, given the seriousness of the situation, given that you have tried during 2.5 years to find a solution, and you haven't yet found it, I'm not sure it can be found in 1 or 2 months, especially if there has to be a second referendum or something of this kind. And let me be very clear from where I am, and I'm independent, I don't report to any authority, this is a British problem. The solution of how can you exit politically a bit or much with exiting economically a bit or much, this compromise is within your system. And by the way, what we've seen yesterday in Westminster is pretty clear. You have 3/3 of the UK Parliament, roughly, one that accepts the deal which is on the table, and we all know that this deal stays very little on the future, and notably on the terms of the trade respiration between the United Kingdom and Europe in the future, if and when Brexit takes place. 1/3 believe this is going too far, and 1/3 being this is not going far enough. And you have to find a compromise between these 3/3. This is not Brussels nor Europe, and I like Mr. Barnier very much, and he's got a great team, and the heads of state and government have been doing well. This is not a European problem. You have to find a compromise between the 3/3 that have appeared in the vote of yesterday in Westminster.
As always, Mr. Lamy, interesting to talk to you, and we're very grateful for your time.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Pascal Lamy there, former Director General of the WTO, who knows the system inside out clearly, and very interesting to get his analysis there of the thoughts around no deal, and indeed his thoughts on what the process is here at Westminster. I'm very clearly saying, you know, it's a British problem. It's not a European problem, though clearly it presents challenges for the European Union. We know that as much as well.